So I'm gonna call the meeting to order. I have 10:02 on my phone as the call to order. So Karen, if you could please do the roll call.
Absolutely. Cameron Blake,
Here.
Bernadette Norris Weeks,
Here.
Mary Telequin, here. Ronald Perkins,
Present.
Earl Prisley,
Here.
Elizabeth Walters,
Here.
and Chair Bowker.
Here. Great. And we also have everyone, so that's great. And we have obviously also in the room our city staff, the HR team, Assistant City Manager Laura Reese. We have Karen who does our note taking, and then we also have members of the public. So welcome everyone. Oh, and also then we also have Dele Lohman who with MGT, and this is our a search firm that has been working with us throughout the entire process. And so I'm gonna move on to the third item on your agenda, which is the discussion of candidates for city manager. So as you know, this committee, everyone was here last Thursday. We interviewed 7 out of the 8 candidates that we had chosen from the first list of 13 that MJT had presented to us. Those meetings took all day. I think we went from 9 to about 5:15. Really appreciate everyone's participation in that and keeping to the schedule. I think it was very equitable and uniform across the process, which is what we wanted all the candidates to experience and for us also to take in. I wanted to talk about just a few items that for today. And then I definitely know Ron, you wanted to make a few comments afterwards. That's fine, and then we can get into our deliberation. So what the purpose of today is to narrow down from the 7 candidates to a smaller number that will then be interviewed by the city commission at the conference agenda on Tuesday, February 4th. The folks that we narrowed down will also be invited to attend a meet and greet the night before that city commission. So that would be on Monday, February 3rd. So that's our purpose for today, is to go from 7 to a lower number. What should that number be? So I know that Dele, that you had made a recommendation that we narrow it down to 4. I think that our sweet spot, in my opinion, just given that there is the chance that people can drop out between now and February 4, could be 4 or 5, in my opinion. I don't think we're gonna end up sending all 7 to commission, and probably not 6. So if the committee agrees, I feel that we're looking at a number of 4 or 5. Having said that, I think that after we deliberate and we actually do the voting, where we're going to say who we'd like to move forward individually, you guys will have a sheet of paper here with the 7. It's gonna be the same way we did it in December, where you would only just give a mark to someone that you feel, in your professional opinion, meets the qualifications that we were set out to fulfill and should be interviewed by the city commission. And you will make that mark on up to 5. You don't have to choose 5, but up to 5 names. And I think that the collation and curation that then when they tally, I think that we're gonna have the right number fall out. But we'll see how it ends up. So we'll do the voting at, after we deliberate some. But so just wanted to give you guys some initial ideas of where I think we're going. Are there any questions?
No, not so much questions. I just think that our work would be more weighty if we narrowed it down to 3, because at this point, anybody who's, this close is not gonna drop out. I don't think. So I would just rather us to be more narrow. No.
Okay, I appreciate the comment.
I was thinking 4, just because I've had that happen.
Yeah.
But I think if we narrow it down, if we only, each of us only pick 4. And then, and then see what happens when those marks are tallied. Because originally in December, we were only supposed to pick, I forget, 5,
I think we went up to 5.
and we chose 8 because there was a tie for somewhere in there. So I don't know that might happen again.
So, I mean, I guess we're not doing motions yet, we're just talking about this concept. So I'll be honest, I appreciate your comment, Bernadette. I think that 3, maybe organically, everyone will be voting for the same 3 and that will happen. However, I guess my preference, just knowing what can happen still in the interim. And also knowing the commission's, I think some messaging that they gave to Jerome at a previous meeting where they would like to be sure that they understand who the full, I think 7 or 8 were for consideration. I guess my number is 4. And if it ends up that the voting is unusual, I would be okay sending 5.
Yeah, and the thing is, I mean, for us to keep in mind, they make the ultimate decision. So
Absolutely.
we're just advisory. So I just think that, for the time that we've all committed to this, I'd like to see it more concrete. And so that, that's my thought, and that's pretty much it, because they
Yeah.
can go back and they can look at number 78. and say,
Yeah,
"That's the
yeah,
person we're
absolutely,
selecting."
they can
And,
decide, yeah. Well, why don't we do this? Let's, it looks like we've mentioned numbers from 3 to 5. We haven't done the voting yet. And that may tell us something about organically what falls out. And we can always make a decision after the vote's been tallied on what that final number is. Would you guys agree to that?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
that's where we should start.
Okay. So, I did want to bring up, there was, just some kind of, point of information for everyone with regards to your notes from the interviews that took place last week. I know we had a discussion about, would those need to be provided to the city, to be discoverable and collected. And so, Jerome, Kristen, and I talked about this and he consulted with the legal department. So first of all, if the notes that you took between 9 AM to 5:15 PM last Thursday are not being shared with anyone, they're not discoverable. However, what the guidance is from Dwayne Spence is that if any of the notes that you took from 9 AM to 5:15 PM are going to be used today in your deliberation in this session, they are discoverable. So that's the guidance. So you guys, I think it's very clear.
We're not gonna use the note that we took last week as part of the selection process of however many, then I feel like last week was a waste.
Oh,
I mean,
so I think that there's a few things. Some people don't actively take notes when they're listening to interviews. I didn't take as many as I normally would because I wanted to be engaged with the candidates. And I knew I had the opportunity to go back and look at the recordings, and we all have those recordings made available to us. So there's an aspect where some people don't want to be actively note-taking during a one-on-one session, and they have already taken notes previous, and they take notes after, maybe when they're watching tapes, or maybe then where they re-reviewed. So I think there's an aspect for all of us where there's a lot of information that we've taken in that didn't take place between 9 and 5:15 on an actual piece of paper. But for example, for myself, I did take some notes, not my most thorough notes. But I will be turning them in because I am gonna look back at them. and that's just the way it is. So I'm gonna leave it to you guys. You guys are all professionals. You can decide what's appropriate. If you're referring back to the notes you took from 9 AM, 5:15 PM in this room to deliberate today, then those are discoverable and need to be provided to city staff.
I'll be turning my beautiful notes in. I'm very used to, the nuns used to collect our notes after every exam, so I'm very, not prepared.
Yeah.
And I will be using mine too.
And having said that, I mean, if your notes look incomplete, mine don't, because I have a lot of other notes that have been taken at times outside last Thursday. So I don't think, don't overthink it, but just let's follow the rules. And then the other thing is just a little bit about the way we, I spoke about this, I think, several meetings ago, just, you know, what we want to do is talk about the candidate's suitability and compatibility to be the Fort Lauderdale city manager. We had, you know, I'm very grateful that we've got 7 unique candidates who are all very accomplished and successful in their own way. And they're all different. They all have different experiences. I think that, first of all, to remind you guys that we're not going to be talking about personal characteristics, age, gender, race, doesn't matter, not to be brought up. We don't need to have any kind of, you know, personal or heavily negative comments. I think that when we talk about the candidates, we want to talk about their unique assets that perhaps you think is why you're going to put them forward when you vote. So I think this committee has done a great job up to now in balancing that line. And are there any questions as far as that? Roosevelt?
I don't have a question, but I wanna do it. Yeah. I was contacted by email. I think his name was Jason, the one that Dan said that they were moving backwards rather than forward in their city. I don't know how many other people got that as well, but I did. I just wanna make sure that you understand
I
that
did get that.
that I was contacted.
Yes, so I forwarded that email to Jerome and Kristen, so city staff has it, and I believe we all received it, and yeah, I think, you know, there's no reason to reply to it, but it's information that happened to come to us and I forwarded it to city staff. Okay. All right, so having said that, before we get started in the process, and certainly I want to involve Daylay in some of this deliberation. I think, you know, there may be some aspects that we may want clarification from you. Ron, I know you wanted to make a few comments.
Yeah, basically what I just want to do is take a moment to thank the chair for incredible leadership and time management, particularly last Thursday. We got through it a lot faster than I thought we were going to do. And I think she's done an outstanding job. So thank you, Linda, and thank you to Jerome and his staff. You guys have been awesome and it's been a very professional group to be part of. So thank you for allowing me to participate.
Yeah, well, thank you, Ron. Really appreciate those comments. And second, yeah, the Jerome and Kristen and Laura have been great and really provided direction and guidance and being partners throughout this process. So it's been a pleasure to work with you guys. And who knows, maybe we'll be working more together. But having said that, at the moment, we don't have any more meetings lined up after today.
Are we expected to be around for the February 9th meet and greet at all, or no? I'm thinking
February
no.
3rd.
I mean, yeah, whatever it is.
I intend to be. I think it would be a great idea since we have been essentially ambassadors for Fort Lauderdale, you know, in this process. So I would heavily encourage everyone to attend that.
I mean, we are invited, I guess it's like.
It's open to the public,
Yeah,
so
Okay.
everyone's invited.
Okay, so, all right, so now we are gonna move on to, the discussion of the candidates and deliberation. And I do understand that there's members of the public here and we have a aspect of the agenda for them. So I wanted to open it up on deliberation. If any of the committee has an idea of how you'd like to deliberate. You know, there is an aspect where we could briefly go one by one and just do a refresh in our memory of you know, who they are and some of the aspects of the cities where they currently work. I also think that Daley could assist us with maybe some open items if we have any on the candidates. So I am open to ideas on how you would formally like to start the deliberation process. I'm happy to do a brief go through each just as a reminder on who we've got as our final 7.
Make a suggestion. I just
Yes.
wondered if we wanted to almost take like the straw vote, go around, see where we're at. We all end up being the top 3 or the top 4. You know, we can do a little summary of what we all thought, but it just seems like maybe we should just get that out of the way first, see where we're at, or as well.
I don't think it's a bad idea. I mean, I feel like I've gone over these a couple times and on my flight and things like that, and I thought, I feel like I know a lot about these people between my notes in this wonderful book you guys put together, and then the interviews were very, very telling, very telling. So I agree with Earl that maybe that's not a bad idea unless others feel, you know, completely differently.
Just do a straw and have HR go ahead and tally where we're at. How do you guys feel about that?
I'd actually like to talk through it a little bit,
Okay.
but I mean, we'll go with whatever the majority.
Well, why don't we do this? Why don't we go ahead and get some questions out of the way that we may have. And talk a little bit, but I promise you, like, we won't, I don't think perhaps we need the entire 2 hours. I don't think we need to wait until 12 to do our vote. I think you're definitely right in that. So maybe let's compromise and get a few questions out of the way. I guess I did have one, I just did want to go over a couple things with Daley. And I don't know that this will really impact my decision, Daley, but there were, when you presented to us in December, you went over all of the 13 candidates and I appreciated that. It was a good summary. One of the things that I'm very conscious of moving forward in the process is that public, and you know, we certainly are the citizens, we represent the citizens of Fort Lauderdale, but as well as the commission are more perhaps privy to the information that is public record and in the media on the internet. And there's a lot of information about the candidates on the internet. And there's a lot of public information. I mean, they've all been very active. I just want to confirm with you, Daley, is that, you know, in looking at all 7, I just want to confirm that MGT felt confident that information available to the public in this situation was not in any way, there was nothing that diluted your confidence in putting any of the original 13 forward.
I am reflecting on the phrasing of that, of your question. So in putting the candidates forward, it was, as you all stated, based on their experience and what we believe to be their potential alignment with the role. In the instances where there may have been media or other concerns related to a particular candidate, my responsibility was to bring that to your attention. And I'm happy to discuss any of those things in further detail if we like. But I think that's probably the best way for me to answer. In some cases, as I mentioned, there were people who were not put forward because of a combination of things. And it may have been a combination of experience or lack of certain types of experience and media. It may have been because of some media that I perceive to be insurmountable. But for the slate that was presented to you, I believe that that was from among the group that we received the strongest combination of experience and background relative to the position.
Okay. So in your professional opinion, there's nothing insurmountable in the media, from any of the candidates' past experiences that would concern you or bring you pause to having this person be our city manager?
I believe that there are, in a couple of instances, some that warrant further discussion and explanation. And I believe that it was the candidates deserved an opportunity if the search committee and or the city commission believed that their experience was worthy of consideration, that you all deserve the opportunity to examine that and hear either from me or directly from them an explanation of those situations, and then to determine whether that was satisfactory and credible, and decide if you want to move forward from there.
Okay, and so having said that, just briefly, which candidates do you think might have have some challenges in this area?
I would say JJ Murphy and David Cook.
And can you briefly describe, I know you gave us a brief breakdown in December of media. Go over again for those two candidates, what your media findings were.
Sure. I'll start with JJ, and there was a good deal of media related to a couple of past experiences with Mr. Murphy. Most recently, and I think what we talked about at greater length in December, was his experience as city manager in Palmdale, California, where there were some pretty serious allegations that arose regarding some hires that he made. They were referred to by one of the references, a previous senior elected official with that community. And so there was a great deal of coverage about that. What we discussed, because there was an ethics complaint against him that was made to the Professional Association, ICMA, and that ended up being investigated thoroughly by their ethics committee and found to be unwarranted and dismissed. There were also a number of lawsuits that resulted from that, which, from my review of this and from discussions with Mr. Murphy, have been resolved. Prior to Palmdale, California, there was a situation in Pennsylvania that was earlier in Mr. Murphy's career where he was under consideration for a senior role. And there was some uproar among some members of the community, and he ended up not being hired. And he took action against that employer. Pennsylvania has some pretty strong laws around veteran preference and hiring. And so that's, you know, something that employers have to be aware of and navigate carefully when reviewing candidates who have military backgrounds, as Mr. Murphy does. So there were a number of allegations related to those issues. There was also an allegation against the police chief in Hobbs, New Mexico, under his leadership as city manager there. That was not directly against him. And you will find a variety of things. There's a YouTube video, I think, a TikTok from citizens talking about some of these issues. And so as I've reviewed those against the other media and resolution of some of these issues, some of it is not fully informed on the part of the citizens. And that's something that you just have to take into account sometimes in these positions. Others of it, I believe, is going to be a matter of, again, whether you all, and specifically the city commission, feels confident that they are not a concern. From my perspective, his time since then, as well as the reference from the elected official who was there during that time, demonstrated his professional capacity, and that weighed against some of that media. And that's what led to my decision to move him forward for further consideration.
And just one more comment, since you brought up JJ Murphy, just to confirm also that MGT, he was one of the candidates that you invited to apply.
Yes, yes. I reached out to a number of different individuals. We keep a database of individuals from previous recruitments. And so I'd had the opportunity to interview him in a previous city manager recruitment, and felt that his experience in a variety of ways aligned with what Fort Lauderdale was looking for. And so I invited him to apply to the position. And I will say that there were, you know, that's part of our approach. So there were a number of individuals that I reached out to in that same manner, and from other previous recruitments, in fact, from the same recruitment in which I engaged with him, who did not choose to apply. But that's why I reached out to him.
Okay, very good. And then I believe the second person you were going to briefly go over, who is that?
David Cook. And we also discussed that in December.
Okay. Oh, and I'll just clarify, you can make his somewhat brief. I think he actually brought up some things in his interview
Correct.
that he wanted to address. So I think you can keep it brief.
Thank you.
Yes, that was, it was simply the the issue surrounding the travel that he brought up in the interview and the settlement that the city made for the dismissal of 3 employees previously in the city of Fort Worth. So it was those 2 items that I wanted to bring to you all's attention.
Okay, thank you for that summary and for
Sure.
refreshing our memory. So committee, any questions on this or any other specific questions you want to ask Bailey? Dan?
Good morning, Delay. Dan Lindblade here. Are these candidates, these finalists, currently on final approach or under consideration at any other cities? If so, which ones and where are they in the process?
Mr. Murphy did disclose to me that he has been named as a finalist in another community. I did not ask him to disclose which community that was. I'm not certain of the whether it's in Florida or what the public disclosure is around that. And so if we were not in the situation that we're in, where all of these are, these deliberations are public, I would have approached that a little bit differently. But just because it is, and they may not be aligned, I did not want to violate that, but he did disclose that he is a finalist elsewhere. No one else has made that disclosure, and I did ask, and we do ask that as a part of this process.
Just, Madam Chair,
Yeah.
just so I'm clear, what you're saying to us is only one candidate is under consideration actively by another municipality or government.
Correct.
Thank you.
And they
then-
did all confirm that after last week that they are committed to and still interested in this role. I asked them to do that prior to your deliberations today, and everyone did.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you for doing that.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Dele, so let me define my interest versus must have. I'm very interested in having a Corvette in my driveway, but I'll never have it. So can you kind of tell me, gauge on a scale of 1 to 10, where are these folks in their desire to be here?
How would she know that? Yeah, I don't know how she would.
Well, recruiters have a sense for where people are, and that some are hot, some are medium, some are cool. I would like the question answered.
My sense is that they are all very much committed to this, and if they were to advance and be made an offer that they can come to agreement on, that they would accept.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I would suggest, and I don't know how the group feels about this, but going through each of the candidates in the order that we interviewed them, it doesn't have to be a lengthy discussion, but I would appreciate just hearing what my colleagues, whether I'm in line with everyone else and having some type of a deliberative process, if possible.
Yes, that was actually one of my ideas for today. So I think we keep it, we won't be too lengthy, but I would be interested in that as well if the committee agrees. So, all right, so we had our first interview, well, just as kind of, actually, I thought this was kind of interesting, just overall, we have 5 out of 7. Dan?
No, I'm just.
Oh, you're just. All right, so we have 5 out of the 7 who are currently working in Florida. We have 1 from Texas and 1 from New Jersey. So anyway, stats, municipalities of all different sizes and budgets and employee size.
And county.
And right, exactly. So, okay, so our first interview was with Raquel Williams. She's currently the Assistant City Manager at City of Miami Beach. Just briefly, their municipality population is 456,000. So higher than the 185,000 of Fort Lauderdale. The municipality budget, a little smaller than ours, 952 million. There are a few less municipality employees at 2,200. She has 18 years of experience and multiple credentials.
The
Yes.
population's incorrect.
Oh, is it?
It's like, online it says 78,000, so I think there was like a 400. Yeah, it's not 478,000, it's 78,000.
Okay, no, that sounded huge.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm just actually trying to see where I got that from.
I think it was from one of the bios, I think it was a typo.
Oh, there's a
But
typo, okay.
It was from
Yeah, when I was reading, I was like, wow, they are really big.
there.
Okay, so it's a 78,000?
78,000.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so population a bit smaller, budget almost the same, municipality employees about 75% of what we have. So yeah, anyone want to give any kind of thoughts or?
Sure.
Yeah.
I'll chime in. I thought Head and Shoulders, I mean, and I hate to kind of swipe everybody in this whole thing, but I thought Head and Shoulders, she just made the best presentation. She was clearly sharp. She had prepared for the interview, not only by visiting the city numerous times at different times, but also through giving concrete ideas of what she thought the city could do. You know, from small things like signage to the website to other very visible type of things that we can all see. I just think that this candidate is one that would put the city in a great, I think she would be a good fit for the city in so many ways. She has so many great ideas. And I think that it's unquestionable, if you compare her interview, which we can on YouTube, with any of the other interviews, she's just head and shoulders above the rest of the candidates who applied. So I disagree with my friend Dan a little bit when he said he didn't think we had a good pool. She was exceptional. She's a rock star. So that's my comment.
Madam Chair, can I just respond to
Look, rock
last
star.
week's
Would you like to have a rebuttal?
answer? Yes, I would. That statement was made before we did the interviews in person. So based on paper, but I'd have to agree with Bernadette. I thought she did a hell of an interview.
Yeah.
She was prepared and I love the fact that she drove up here a couple of times. I thought that was really showed some real direct desire. Yeah. that was good.
Absolutely.
So,
I'll
thank
do
you.
Mary and then Roosevelt.
I totally agree with, Bernadette kind of took the words out of my mouth. She was, knew an awful lot more about the city, it seemed like, than other candidates, and had been a lot more thorough. I also liked it that she knew enough about our hotel, the convention center, that, hopefully that she gets hers built before ours, and talked about the problems of building something like that. So I just, without beating a dead horse, I just thought her interview was stellar. There were a lot of great interviews, Billy. I mean, there really were a lot, but I thought, and it's not because she was first. I just think I've interviewed enough people to know that this person really knows what's going on. And I do agree. I think she would be a super fit. That's my take.
That's great. Roosevelt?
Couple of things before I do that. Now, Bernadette says Dan thought that we had a reprove, so did I. Before the interview, I gave no one, my scale was from 1 to 5, with 5 being top. No one received above 3. And there was no 4s and no 5. After the interviews, I'm not gonna say who is what, but I had 2 5s and 2 4s, and the other was no one see less than 3. And so that's where I was, but when I was making my decision on how to best find the better person, I did okay till I got to the top. And with the 2 5s, I numbered them 1 and 1A and 1A and 1. If that makes sense to you, because I thought they was very close in their knowledge and what I thought their ability was to handle. Because one thing we were supposed to look at was the number of employees that they had and also the size of the budget in which they had managed. And those 2 5s I thought was well qualified in those areas. I think what made the difference with me was the way Ms. Williams presented not only the city in which she now works, but she did a very good job and presented herself as an asset to the city of Fort Lauderdale. Oftentimes, when we do things like this, we say what I can do for the city or what the city can do for me. And I thought she was very clear, very well spoken when it came to identifying problems, needs, wants, and desires. She did very well, and I rated her well. That's all I can say.
Good.
So finally, I'd like to just echo my colleagues and as a technical person, I was listening very carefully. And she said a couple things about a lift station versus a pump station. Many of us don't know, general public don't know that, but she knows what that is and that's very technical. And so I appreciated that. I appreciate that she comes from being a capital improvements project coordinator, which that's where the rubber meets the road and implementation. We can put up logos, icons, buzzwords, we can change department names to what the public doesn't understand anymore. But it's the implementation part that I think we're falling short in the city. And she also brought up that she had identified some areas in the organization of the city that she didn't understand, couldn't, was trying to figure out how it was put together. So I think she did her due diligence and I think it really showed and she could be a pretty good asset as well, so. That's my comment.
About 100 years ago, I ran a staffing agency. And one of the things we looked at when we hired people was a term called positive representational image. And it's the ability of someone to represent their organization professionally, yet warmly and so forth. This lady exudes it. And just as a matter of self-disclosure, Karen and I were at a restaurant for breakfast yesterday morning, and she was at the restaurant. And she introduced herself. She recognized me, knew my name, introduced herself, and we thought she came across well on TV. She was incredible. This woman is remarkable. I feel very, very strongly that she is our best candidate.
Very good. So I will say that I agree with all your comments and thank you for summarizing so well. I think she had a very impressive interview. Her resume really fits. And I think that I could tell, my impression was that she's extremely excited to be involved with us, has already, as you said, has ideas for probably things she'd like to do in Fort Lauderdale. And her experience is very interesting, apart from the assistant city manager of City of Miami Beach. Not that long ago, she was a little bit even closer to us because she was the executive director of the Dania Beach Community Redevelopment Agency. So she has worked in Broward very recently. And yeah, I agree with all of her personal, assets, the way she comes across. I do like one of the quotes that Daly gave us in her summary notes which said that she was allergic to mediocrity, was one of the, so, I agree, with those comments, so, appreciate that summary.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Just one concern that I have about her is, she hasn't been the chief for any extended period of time. And it's different when you're the head person. And she's been interim, she's been ahead of some departments, but when you're on top, it's a different ballgame. So that would be my only concern.
Gotcha, okay.
Just
Elizabeth.
quickly, and I agree, in fact, I even mentioned that to her, I remember I said to you, you were the assistant woman and doing this, you're gonna be the man. And, but when I see this, it make me think about, resumes where you have applied and they want the experience, an experienced person in the position, but no one give the person an opportunity to be in the position. So you get caught, what they say, the chicken and the egg. You eat the egg and have no chickens, or eat the chicken and have no eggs. That's the way it goes. And somewhere you got to, somebody have to allow this person to have that firsthand agree in whatever position they have to be seeking in. This one is the city manager, and I think she deserves a chance.
Thanks for that. Mary?
I hear what you say. And I thought about that, but plenty of times in my career, there'd be somebody that would be promoted into a position of great, responsibility that they had never held before. And they were never gonna have the experience if they didn't get promoted into that position. At least she has held the position for a little bit and has a clue. And sometimes I think excitement and freshness is better than a load of experience. And that's really what I see in her, is that she'll bring an energy to the position rather than somebody that's, now maybe it's because I'm older and I worked in like their jobs for, decades. You can get burned out. So I just don't see that with her. I just see her coming in with a load of excitement and energy. And I think that's important to me.
Brenda?
And like you, I work with a lot of city managers and a lot of city staff every single day. And I will tell you that sometimes it's a matter of opportunity. I think what you were saying, Roosevelt, it's not. And I think in this case, things probably lined up, and I can't remember, and I don't want to misquote her, but why she was interested or in this position. I think that was one of the things we even talked about. But I think that if this personality, this person were really diligently looking to be a city manager in other places, whether it's other places in the state or outside of the state, there's no question in my mind that she could not have already achieved that goal. So I think she's a strategic person, as I viewed her, just listening. I've never met her outside of the box on the, the television screen. But she appears to be someone who prepares herself, who aligns her mission and goals and objectives and, and moves when it's good, a good time to move. So I don't see that as a negative at all. And just to complete what I'm also thinking is, I've been involved in a lot of city manager searches as well for other cities when they're doing it, not me doing it, just as a city attorney looking at it. And in most cases, they're looking for internally for someone who could be the interim, that's internal to fill this position. And every now and then you get a really good person who can just walk right in. And I was thinking as we were interviewing her, I mean, she could walk into not just the interim position, but to be a manager just about anywhere in this state or nation. I mean, this girl is sharp. And we can't take that away from her because, she just hasn't availed herself, because I think that's what it probably is, of the opportunity at another time and place.
Yeah, well said. Okay, so thank you for all the comments on first candidate we interviewed, Raquel Williams. Let's move on to the second candidate. We interviewed David Cook from Fort Worth, Texas. He has been the city manager in Fort Worth, Texas for over 10 years. I have that municipality population quite large. I know it's one of the largest cities in the United States at 978,000. He was managing a budget of 3.6 billion and municipality employees of 8,200. So this was certainly a larger community than city than Fort Lauderdale's. Thoughts on Mr. Cook? Okay, Rosemont.
As I read, and the backup there too, he, you know, he's been involved in some lawsuits only because, when you sue the city, you sue the city manager. As a names.
Well, actually, you can't sue the city manager, but I get your point.
No, but, you sue the, you were named in the
No,
lawsuit.
you can't do that.
I'm just telling you what's in his thing. What it says in here, he was named, as part of the lawsuit because he was the city manager. But, I thought he did, a good job. He was sharp and do I think he could do the job here with the manager? Yes, I can. But he is one of the ones that I would look into.
Okay. Thanks for your candor on that. So any other thoughts on David Cook, Mary?
Well, because I'm constantly comparing the candidates, he had been to the city before, and the impression I got was on vacation. And that's what I have in my notes, is that, you know, he had visited here, he knew what the city looked like, he knew the prior city manager from 4 back or 3 back. And, you know, it didn't impress me as much as Ms. Williams, you know, looking at the city. But, you know, but also, you know, Mr. Cook has been the city manager of a huge city and for quite a long time. So he probably has loads of experience. So, you know, I feel like, well, maybe he doesn't feel like he needs to know as much because it's a smaller, less complicated, possibly, I don't think that's really true, entity than what he's done in Texas. So while I'm sure he could come in, walk in the door and, you know, what's going on, he didn't come in first in my grouping, just because, you know, he's retired from somewhere and he's looking for his next adventure. And that's cool for him, but I don't know that I want the city to be his adventure, is really the way it just didn't click with me the way Raquel did.
Okay. Bernadette?
I agree with Mary. What I got from that is that I have some family in the area and, you know, if I moved here, this is something I could do.
Yeah, exactly.
But in terms of qualifications, I mean, you can't take that away from him. Clearly, he's qualified. Even the stuff about the flight to Aspen didn't really, for the music festival, that didn't really bother me so much. But I did kind of get the sense of, you know, I'm just kind of done here in Texas and I want something else to do. And so for that, he didn't make my top candidates, so.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yes, I can just
Earl?
say, I think he's well qualified. I think he's a great guy. But I think in my pecking order, it's gonna be Florida, coastal communities, and previous experience. So Florida is very unique. I thought about it myself, trying to go to California to try and figure out how to fight the fire in you know, a whole nother monster. Florida is very, very unique, in particular South Florida. So I think, you know, I'll always take that as the preference. and then reach people. So I think he's a great guy. I think he did a great job, but.
And I guess, yeah, my thoughts on him were, I was very pleasantly impressed with his interview. I like his personality, his style, his kind of communication style. I did appreciate the fact, that he's probably one of the longer serving city managers. Based on like what the average would be, I guess, to survive 10 years, over 10 years. The other thing too is I noted that he actually had been, he was also a county manager in Wayne County, North Carolina. But yes, I did have some questions about, I think this is I think he's very qualified. But it did seem that he had retired, and then, I think, but I believe him when he says he does want to find the next place. Perhaps he just wants it to be a smaller municipality. The other things, I guess, I noted on him were just, I think that he seems to be very familiar with working with the large budgets. They do have a steadily growing tax base. He did say that he actually they had the highest tax rate when he started his position, and was able to reduce it. I know that's probably not going to happen in Fort Lauderdale. He does work in the city of Fort Lauderdale city of Fort Worth with 250 neighborhood associations. Yeah, so those are my comments. I did have an overall positive impression of him.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
he said, when he said right at the beginning that he's comes from a numbers background. And I said, when I was recruiting, I remember I used to do CFO searches. I did 2 of them and I quit doing them because I hated interviewing them. They were very difficult interviews. They didn't have a lot of animation. I kind of felt that with him, and I did not hold it against him at all. And I knew that, you know what you get with Mr. Cook. He's got a proven track record, and so if he was hired by the commission, there's no doubt he could do the job.
Yeah, I agree with your comments, yeah. Okay, if there's nothing further, we'll go on to our third interviewee, which was Mr. Kareth Fiddler. Currently in North Miami.
Is Jason Davis on this form? I don't know if this form is in order.
Oh, I'm actually doing it in the order we interviewed.
Yeah.
That's the way I remember them.
That's right, that's my.
If you guys don't mind, we'll
No,
just.
that's perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So he's currently Public Works Director at City of North Miami. He was previously the city administrator for City of Pensacola, Florida. I believe the municipality figures that were provided by MGT that correlated to ours, they had a municipality population 59,000, budget of 314 million, and municipality employees of 809. He had moved from Pensacola back to North Miami for family reasons, and he was open about that. And so thoughts on Mr. Fiddler? Mary?
Well, this is one of those interviews that I was like, wow, this is not what I expected. I think he's probably has a lot less experience than some of the other candidates. But what I liked about him is I could tell he's got to be a well-liked person, probably a really good leader. And you can get that in an interview sometime. It's not always possible to get that. I like his background, IT and public works. I think that's very important to our city to have, especially public works. He knew what Fortify Fort Lauderdale was. He's had hurricane experience. He managed to get FPL to bury their power lines I mean, that alone is really an achievement that, you know, we all know how impossible that is to make happen where we are because it's a bigger place and older. Well, I don't even know, it's not necessarily older, but, I think he's probably a good person from what I got, in doing projects and making them happen, making things happen and getting them finished. So I was pleasantly surprised by his interview, you know, in my notes, I just didn't expect that. I think he's probably a really good leader and a very smart person. Again, he doesn't have a lot of the experience that some of the other candidates have. He did not, that I could see, have worked for a commission. It seemed like he was only worked in a mayor type of government. Somebody
The
correct
strong,
me.
the strong mayor form.
Yeah, strong mayor form. That if I'm incorrect or if I missed something, you know, feel free to let me know. That would be a negative because working with the commission that's a whole other animal. Oh, Delhi, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, oh yeah, I have two hands here, so I'll do
Oh, sorry.
Dele and then Roosevelt.
She might be correcting me.
I just wanted to add to that, Mary, that you're correct. As the administrator, he worked in a strong mayor form of government, but he has experience in a council manager form of government working for Kissimmee. And now I believe North Miami is council manager, but Kissimmee certainly was.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dele. Roosevelt.
Okay, I agree with Mary that he would be a good fit, but not in Fort Lauderdale. Because of, the lack of, handling a large budget. The budget that he was handling is only like 1/3 of what the budget is for the city of Fort Lauderdale. I think he'll be a good fit for Oakland Park, Wilson Manor, places that doesn't have that fast moving pace and the work that we need to have done here in the city of Fort Lauderdale. Yes, he did some projects, but it was nothing near the size of what we have here left to be done in infrastructure. In fact, we have not completed not one task that the infrastructure task force was tasked with doing, and with the $4.6 billion budget. And I would have a problem with that. I also would have a problem with the number of employees he managed, which would be like 1/4 the size of the number of employees would have to handle here. And because of those two things, then I did not put him on my move forward.
Okay. Okay, no, appreciate those comments. He's about 900, managed about 900, I guess, in the municipality, so maybe about 1/3 of where we're at with our 2,900. Okay, thank you for those comments. Any other comments on Kareth Fiddler? Roosevelt and then Earl. I mean, sorry, not Roosevelt, Bernadette, what am I saying? Jeez.
That's okay.
Oh, Bernadette, okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
You're
like, I was still stuck, like Roosevelt.
Yeah, Roosevelt.
She didn't say Mrs. Walker. You good.
Okay, so I thought he was good. I think I was a little bit bothered by there was interruption with his internet, and so he was frozen a lot of the time, and I don't know if that was on our side or his, but that was kind of disruptive to me a little bit. But I tried to kind of get past that and listen to him and not think so much about it. I thought that I thought he was a little nervous compared to what I read and what we went through when we did our short listing. I thought he didn't say some of the things that were in in his background. I particularly have an affinity for like public works people as managers, and I know how those kind of disciplines help me in the work that I do. And so because he has that background and he's you know, kind of, he's a contractor, I just know, and a lot of stuff that cities deal with are projects and land development things and so I just thought he'd be, good, but he didn't really come across as confident and that may have had a lot to do with the internet thing. So I liked him, I liked his resume, I don't think he presented as well as maybe his resume showed he could have.
I appreciate that. Okay, Earl.
Well, always, I'm a technical person, I'm always, looking at somebody who has, a degree in architecture, former, public works director. He's in. See this again, but in the city of Sunrise, our city manager is a professional engineer like me, the assistant city manager is a professional engineer like me, and we have a new city hall that's come out of the ground, and we're building a amphitheater, not tearing one down. So I'm always gonna be preferential to somebody that can come in. I think we have a void in our public works area. I think we have some challenges there. So I think this gentleman is worth a look from the commissioners. See what they say. That would be my thought. I think that that would be my vote. My vote is to put him on there and let him have a discussion. Or the commissioner, excuse me. See what it is. So I think that he's worth putting on the list. That would be mine.
Okay, any further comments on Mr. Fiddler? I'm gonna keep moving, I'm looking at the time, so we've gone through 3, we have 4 more. And then, because I do wanna make sure that we can react to. We are scheduled to end at 12, and I think that we need to do that.
That's a hard stop.
Yeah, that's a hard stop. Okay, so I'm gonna move on to Mr. John. He prefers JJ Murphy. He's currently the Assistant County Administrator here in Pasco County, Florida. He's done that for the past 2 years. He was the former city manager of Palmdale, California, and you guys all have his previous experience prior to that. He has quite a bit of experience. The stats for his municipality, this would be for Pasco, is 584,000 population, $2 billion budget, and muni employees of 4,000. So thoughts on Mr. JJ Murphy?
Well, sorry, I think he interviewed very well. He came across with a lot of enthusiasm, interesting background, working with FEMA and national agencies. I think it bothered me a little bit that after 20 years, he only made the major report, which is unusual given what he said his military background was.
Okay.
But kind of a question.
And I think he was active, but then went to reserve. So I think that that can affect things as well. But no, let's appreciate your comments. Anything else on JJ Murphy?
And he wasn't on my list, but I liked some of his comments I pulled out. And I don't see anything worth sharing, so I won't. I mean, meaning not that he didn't say things worth sharing, it's just that it's just the mundane kind of things that other people would have said, I guess.
I just say that,
Roosevelt.
I narrowed mine down to the top 3. And if I had to go through a top 4, you would probably make it. But if I only get 3, I did not move him up.
Okay. Mary.
Well, I got the impression that he was probably a good negotiator and a good listener. And, he does have some good experience. I mean, he said he's a collaborator, not a dictator. I pulled that out of my notes, Bernadette. But, I don't know. I mean, he was in my, top group originally. I mean, he still sort of is, but I'd be kind of like Roosevelt here, where he might be in my top 4, but wouldn't be in my top 3.
Okay.
He's also lived in 2 of my favorite places, New Mexico and California, but that really shouldn't count for anything. Just thought I'd say it out loud, because don't look at me like that.
What?
And yeah, I just had, from my notes, I had, it was interesting to me that Pasco is, the 3rd fastest growing county. I had that, I'm not sure if that's in Florida or in the US. He does have extensive experience, in multiple municipalities, including being the city administrator of, Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, which is close to where I am from. I did appreciate his, some of the, his emphasis on how some of his military background and ethos has, comes through in the way he works, with his community. I certainly do respect that experience with FEMA, fire rescue, correction center in Wilkes-Barre. I did appreciate too that he likes to use humor as a way to deal with the workforce. He's I think he was invited to apply by MGT. And yeah, those were the main comments I had on him. So if there's nothing further.
I think I'll just echo exactly what Mary said. I think.
Okay.
Wow, maybe the commissioner sees something else, maybe, so. Exactly what we said.
Okay. All right, so let's move on to Mr. Albert Childress, goes by Al. So I know that we received his updated resume where he's in an interim position, where he is the interim village manager at the Village of Biscayne Park. He just started that in 2024. But his primary experience for this role was his previous experience being the city manager in Key West. He was also at the city of Doral for quite a long time. City manager, deputy city manager, assistant city manager, and a department director. So he's certainly very local, close to where in our vicinity as well. The stats I have from him briefly, population Key West, 25,000, Doral 79,000, budget in Key West, 200 million, municipality employees, I believe this is for Key West, 435. So certainly smaller budgets and municipalities in Fort Lauderdale. Thoughts on Mr. Childress?
He was my only flat out no. I just didn't have a good feeling during the interview. I didn't like the background. I thought he was out of his element, and so those were my takeaways from it.
Okay. Thanks, Dan. Anyone else?
Well,
Mary?
I could agree with Dan. I would say the same thing. It was just, it's not that he didn't have the experience, that the interview was just flat.
Mhm.
Kind of flat.
I'll say, I think this is a great gentleman, and I think that he's got, on paper, he was my number 1 to go into the interview. Because he had a lot of the background. But I think the interview came off as that, maybe he wasn't as hungry as some of the other candidates in being aggressive. I think he's a great guy, but I don't know if that interview would just like really came across as being aggressive, trying to get that job.
Just checking if I wanted to give out any other comments. Yeah, I just had written down from his references from MGT, professional leader, excellent analytical abilities. The one thing that did come across that he is, and I felt I could see this come across in the interview, very moral and ethical. Early starter in the office and last to leave. But yeah, appreciate your comments on him. And, okay, so if there's nothing further on Al, we will go to, Jason Davis, our 7th interview, who is the Deputy County Administrator of St. Lucie County, Florida. Stats that we got from MGT, that, municipality population, 359,000. Budget is approaching ours, about 3/4 at 755 million. And the municipality employee number is at 924. So about 1/3 of ours. So thoughts on Mr. Davis? Bernadette.
I enjoyed his presentation. I struggled a little bit with, and maybe because I'm a little bit more formal, that I would have liked to have seen him in a tie. But I think that, he's a laid back guy. I think he'd lead in that way. He said a lot of things that I quoted. I have a lot of crazy ideas, and so I sort of like that. He was kind of my wild card, 3rd pick. But I thought he, you know, he had a lot of good stuff to say. He's in a populated area, and I'd like to see him advance. So.
Thank you, Brian.
Well, one thing you mentioned that kind of bothered me was you were talking about homelessness, and he was proud of a $2 million grant, but they couldn't remember where it came from.
That's true.
That was what it was.
Okay. Anything else on Mr. Davis?
Yep, just that I threw him a curveball and he, you know, he did his best to react to it. I thought he did a good job reacting to it. And then he followed up, I guess to all of us. I thought he was just following up to me, but he followed up to all of us. I did not respond, but the information is really readily available and easy to get. Guy's bright. He's got it going on. So yeah, I would move him forward in my ranking.
I just had, you know, from my notes, I did find his candor very refreshing. I think it was interesting. He said that as opposed to an open door policy, if code would allow, he would have a no door policy. You know, just little snippets about kind of like the culture he wants to maintain. It was interesting. One comment he did make, and I'm not saying whether it's good or bad, but it was interesting. He said he would support the city commission unconditionally. He says he's very good at conflict resolution. And he was said that, you know, probably his weakness is that he has too many ideas. But I don't, you know, I found it interesting. So I was very pleased with the interview with him. Definitely familiar with HB 1365. You know, references, just to remind you guys, some of the things that Dayley had for us, former supervisor and former subordinates, have mentioned that, you know, he was very good to work with and one of the smartest they know, good at conflict resolution. So I was impressed with Mr. Davis. Okay. So on to our final interviewee, which was Matthew Vonderhayden. He is the township administrator for the township of Stafford, New Jersey. The municipality stats are 29,000 population, $56 million budget, and 220 muni employees. And so thoughts on Matt, Mary.
I would say this is probably one of the smarter people I have ever interviewed in my life. This guy was a brilliant person.
He's a professor.
Yeah, it was just, well, not all professors are brilliant. He is a very, very smart person. And he said so many good things and he had a lot of great ideas, but the downfall from him is everything he's done. I think even school is all the Northeast, New Jersey, if I'm not mistaken. And that's not his fault. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's, I know New Jersey, it's different than here. I've hired a person from New Jersey for the gaming industry. So great people come out of there. There's nothing, I mean, it's a great place and this guy is really smart, but he doesn't have any Florida experience and it's a very different place than New Jersey. Not that he couldn't succeed, but it's just something that I so know.
Thanks for that. Bernadette.
Yeah, well, initially when we came into the process, I thought there is no way I'm gonna be interested in anyone who is outside of this area. That's what I thought. Well, he changed my mind because I think he's smart enough to, and I've trained city managers who come in from other areas on the sunshine law, here's budget issues, and this is what you gotta know, here ethics rules, or this is the state, this is what the county says, this is what, I think he'd pick up on stuff because he's just so smart, just innately. He's just that kind of a smart guy. The only concern I had about him was whether his clinical background, being that, he teaches city management issues, he's a clinical kind of a guy. Obviously, he's in practice doing it as well. Whether that translates into a larger, more metropolitan area, this is fairly small, 29,000. I mean, it's not insignificant. It's just not, the numbers that we have here in our city. And he actually was in my top 3. But compared to the other candidates, I like the fact that he teaches. I wasn't so bothered by the area. I think he believes in people being, giving input. And I think I asked him, which was unlike some of the other interviewees, a couple of tough questions at the end, because I really wanted to know how he would relate to like being in a diverse community with a lot of different kind of people. And so his answer I thought was satisfactory for me. But I liked the interview. I thought he did a good job.
Roosevelt.
Well, I was impressed with his ability to get his points across, I guess, best way to put it. His budget managing doesn't reach my expectation. Neither does the number. But then I look at everything else that he's involved in. I think Dan said it when he was speaking, he had more stuff behind his last name than anybody he ever saw. And that's true. I never seen some of them things I never even heard of. But I'm wondering how much is that transferable and will vacate the fact that he doesn't have the budget experience or the employee experience. And he is one of the ones that I rated at the top. I don't remember what he won, A or A1.
Thanks for that.
Can I add, for a biologist or chemist, he communicates a lot better, right?
Yeah, unbelievable. I thought, no way.
So Earl?
Just really quick, I just want to say is I really like this guy a lot. I think he was really fantastic. And you can see an intelligent person, after speaking to him. But I think in my mind, this guy came down here to Florida somewheres, served as the assistant city manager somewheres, dug in, had a little bit more of a Florida type of resume on there. I think then he would be maybe for the next step. So that would be my only reservation is I'd like to see more Florida experience. It's very unique down here. And so that would be my reservation. But otherwise, I think he's really actually a brilliant guy. But again, Florida is so different, and if he had just a little pedigree from Florida down here, serving as something with all that knowledge, I think that would put him, in my mind, in my opinion, a bit further up. Some of the others. I was surprised from MGT, given the 99 list, that he was included in here when there was a couple other assistant city managers from other cities. So this was interesting to me. Made it through their vetting, but anyways, great guy. Won't be on my top list rate yet.
One other thing to say is that this is also the person that figured out that another municipality was tapped into their sewer system.
Right.
Thanks to one of these letters up here, you could understand who it
I
was.
knew how to build
And
it.
was able to get $1.5 million out of them to pay for what they've done. So I mean, that's a story in itself.
Knowing when it happened.
Yeah, you can
Based on
tell.
the.
Figured out,
They
right,
analyzed
it's in the
it.
flows, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
That was great.
So I just think that's a remarkable feat right there.
Roosevelt?
Yeah, just, you saying that if he had come to Florida and did some assistant positions, you would feel a little different. But I would if he was either Dave Broward or Palm Beach, because you cannot compare what's going on the West Coast with what goes on the East Coast. It's like night and day in the way they run their governmental entities, and so if he was needed that, I would prefer it than for Dave Broward or Palm Beach, but he didn't have any, and I appreciate your comment, and you're leaving in my top.
Okay. So just to wrap it up, minor comments for me. I have always been impressed with him since I saw his credentials on paper. But I did see the challenge that it would be for him from even MGT noted that he's not coming from a comparable community. Having said that, I do like his background. I like his scientific background and thinking. I agree with most of all of your comments. One of the things that I did write down, that I feel he has been very creative and aggressive in figuring out how to get grants for his community. And he has a definite resiliency focus for his community. I think he's been creative in that aspect. He did clean up 186 acres of bay. And he is actually in New Jersey. They are following some of his activity in this area as best practice for the state. So those were just I do find him very impressive, and I think we'll see what happens, but I think no matter what, I will go far. Okay, any final comments? I think we are at 11:30 and we'll lose our quorum at 12. So I do want us to move towards voting. I guess that would be my preference, unless anyone would like to have the public comments prior to we do the voting. Okay, so we will quickly take public comment. If there are public comment, you don't have to make comment. But if you would like to make public comment, if you could just keep it to less than 2 minutes.
Make it much quicker, very well
No problem.
processed, and I want to thank you on behalf of Mike area down the residents of the Central Beach Alliance for your participation and commitment to keep this process moving in a timely manner and the due diligence that it greatly needs. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Bill.
Okay, so that's the close of public comment. So committee, now I think we move forward. If you could, I'm gonna, if you agree, then based on what we discussed earlier, if HR agrees that the numbers will float out of this, if you could mark up to 4.
Are we going to vote on that, or I think earlier you said we'll vote on?
We can vote on it if someone would like to make a motion, but I guess based on the earlier comments, my recommendation as chair is that you vote for up to 4, you don't have to vote for 4 or
Right.
less.
Well, and the only reason I'm asking, and forgive me
Yeah.
for taking more time than maybe necessary, but the reason I'm asking is because I would like for us to submit 3 names each. Which is consistent with my earlier statement. And so if we were going to vote on 3 or 4, I think maybe we should have that vote first and then determine, how we move forward, based on that vote.
And I think that the other thing that, I said at the beginning was that, we feel that we should be moving forward folks that got at least 4 out of 7, so they got a majority of the, committee's vote. That I think is important, but then this is a numbers game. And so I would just want to make sure that by if we limited it to only voting up to 3, I just am a little concerned, will we have candidates with a full majority? And I do wanna stress it, when we vote for up to 4, you don't have to vote for 4, it's 4 or less. But back to your original point, do we want to vote on ultimately how many we're sending to commission?
That's what you said we were gonna do.
Yeah, so I'm considering that we need to do that after we tally the votes. Cause I think it may come out that way. And I think that I just feel that this is organically going to become very apparent to us once we tally the votes. And I think that then we can talk about if we wanna take the top 3. But I guess you're concerned that we won't end up with 3 if we allow people to vote for up to 4.
I think we should all vote for 3 people and then, the people who have the highest number of votes from the group advance. That's my recommendation.
That girl is ahead of me.
I was gonna say, I think I'm on with you except for the end part. I think that we should all vote for our top 3. I think we should vote on how many we're gonna bring to the commission. Let's look at the numbers. Let's talk about that really quickly, and then we can make that decision.
Okay, so you guys would like for us to vote for our top 3? Not up to 4.
I agree. I think so.
Top 3?
Yeah.
Okay, so
I'm fine with that. My only concern is I don't know how the commissioners are gonna like only having 3 candidates. It might not be enough for them.
But
And
then
if you
again, they could
recall, years
choose.
ago, when we had the city attorney search, they were very disappointed in the people that came forward initially.
But they've made a statement in the last commission meeting that they have the authority to, or whatever it is, to call up whoever they want. So this is just a recommendation, not a committee. They may go back to the original 13, they may go back to the original 99.
Oh, okay, good
So
point.
I think this is just, we're going through the process. And, maybe the numbers come out like, let's push these 4 through. But let's just see where the numbers fall out, and I think we can.
Yeah, and I look at it like, we are all volunteers. We've taken a whole lot of time to do this. I want my time to be meaningful. And so, sending 3 names, I think is meaningful. And if there's a consensus, and vote among the body. So anyway.
Okay.
But okay.
Staff, when we sent up I think we sent 3 for the city attorney, if I remember correctly. You had a problem with that?
We identified 3,
Right.
only 2 were going forward, and then one of those even dropped out at the last minute. So ultimately, I think the commission had already made some decision prior to, I don't know that for sure. But I think the last candidate dropped out because there was chatter going on outside of the process. That the other candidate was the likely successor. And so he bowed out.
Wow.
But they didn't have a problem with the process.
I don't recall that there was concerns about the process, no.
Okay.
Okay. So I think we'll delay the vote until we know the results, on who, we will do a vote on actually affirming the results and who we're sending forward, once we have them. Just question to, Jerome and Kristen. If we limit our voting, I know you've done a few analytics, to up no more than 3, do you see us falling out where we want to be?
I suspect so. What do you think?
Okay. Okay. All right, well, we haven't voted on it, but I'm getting, I appreciate your comments from the committee that you would like to vote for, up to 3. You don't have to vote for 3. So that is the direction we will go. And, then once we have the tally, we will, affirm, the number that is actually going forward. Okay?
Yep.
Do any?
You want a name, Lindy? I know you got a line up there.
Oh, yeah.
I'll know it's you, because you'll be the only one without a name.
Oh.
Been enlightening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Here you go. Now,
Girl, did you redo your booklet?
Unfortunately, I cannot sit it in a response all of this time. Only did you.
Oh, you did? Okay, nice, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, what I did was like, when we cut it down to an 8, I like took out.
Oh,
Yeah, and then I had to I was like, does the machine do this? Cause this one was a little hard to read. Wireframe.
That's where I used to work.
Do you watch football at all? Do you like?
What name did you just say?
Jim Allen.
Oh, yeah, I know, I worked with him in the Bahamas too.
He's an interesting guy.
That could be good. We're talking about speaker for our annual meeting coaching.
Yeah, yeah.
He started out, I mean, one time somebody said to me,
Oh.
oh, so got promoted because.
Oh, yeah, but you're from
college
the north,
roommate.
right?
Yeah.
That same. Oh, he never went to college. I mean, he literally started like the one boy.
He's got a great story.
Karen,
Okay.
I have the results, would you like to hear?
Yes, thank you, Kristen.
So only 2 people received a majority. That is Raquel Williams, who received 7 votes. Matthew Vonderhayden received 4 votes. We then have a tie with David Cook and Jason Davis for 3 votes each.
Should we, Madam Chair,
Yes.
should we vote on those just to make us, since we have a clear majority for 2 of them, should we maybe take a vote on the 2 that have the 3 votes?
Yeah.
And then that way we can get to our 3rd.
I think it's.
So,
I like that.
so we have so we have Raquel, we have, Matt. And then you said
David Cook and Jason Davis are the next 2.
David Cook
Jason Davis.
and Jason Davis. So,
What was the actual spread? Excuse me.
yes.
4-4-3-3.
Well,
So 7 for Raquel, 4 for Matthew Vonderhayden, and 3 for David Cook and Jason Davis.
And then for the others,
The others, Kareth Fiddler with 2, and John Murphy with 1.
Debbie?
So essentially, okay, so we had David Cook and Jason with 3 out of 7 each, which is not a majority. Having said that, committee, I will tell you, I have a strong preference for sending 4 rather than 3. And I think that our commission can handle that. These are strong candidates. The other 2 or 3, they're behind, way behind. I feel that in the conference agenda on Tuesday, that there is time. And I think that our commission is certainly, I think, has an appetite, from what I understand, to have a slightly larger base. And I am concerned by February 4th that there is a chance that we may lose someone.
Madam Chair, I'm comfortable voting on the 2 candidates to see if either rises to the top. If it's split again, then I agree with what you say. But it won't be because there's 7 of us.
If that's a motion, I'd second that motion.
I have a problem with only sending 3 or only having 3 people going forward because somebody can drop out. Now you've got 2 and 4 is not that many people for them to get to know. It's just not.
So just to move things forward, I'll make that motion that we vote on the 2.
Okay,
I'll
so
second
there's a
that
motion and a second on the table. Any further discussion before we vote on this motion? So yeah, just as I've said before, I feel we did a good job in our last vote, and actually allowing the additional people at the end, who had a few less votes, to go forward for the interviews. I think we were pleasantly surprised, and one of the people that we that had less votes than we expected, or one of the lower votes, is actually someone now who has a majority of our votes. And I think that the commission, who is ultimately going to be working with this very important candidate, ultimately our city manager, hopefully, may also experience something like what we did. So just my comment in the discussion period. Roosevelt.
Yeah, I was about to ask, you voting in favor of the motion or opposed?
So I'm gonna vote against this motion.
Okay, all right, I just wanna make sure where we stand with the.
So any further discussion before we vote? Okay, so all in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye, raise your hand.
Aye.
Okay, so motion passes. All right, so we will now be voting, doing how.
You can do it verbally, or would you like your papers back? It's. I have another set of papers too, if you'd like to
We can
just.
save time.
I think verbally is fine. I'll just ask Karen to do the roll call. And so in this vote, you are voting between either David Cook or Jason Davis to move forward as a 3rd candidate.
Okay, Mr. Lindblade,
Cook.
Ms. Norris Weeks,
Jason Davis.
Ms. Caliquin,
Jason Davis.
Mr. Perkins,
Davis.
Mr. Presley,
Before I say, I still feel that I'd rather have a commissioner make that choice rather than me, but since this is what the pleasure of the board is, Mr. Davis.
Mr. Walters,
Cook.
and Chair Bowker.
I'm gonna go with Mr. Jason Davis.
Okay.
All right, so thank you, committee, and I appreciate the sharing everyone's opinion. I really do appreciate when you guys have this given the wealth of experience on the committee, when you have a strong opinion on what should be done, I respect that. I respect the majority. So, let's see, I think, on our agenda, we are we just at adjournment? Is there something, oh, is for the good of the order? Is there anything for the good of the order?
Just to confirm, the three candidates moving forward into the commission by the recommendation of this committee, Raquel Williams, Matthew Vander Hayden, and Jason Davis.
That's, we confirmed that.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay, so anything else? Okay, so just for the good of the order committee, it has just been a pleasure working with you all. I'm so delighted that I got to know you all. And I believe that this is our last meeting, but if it's not, we will reconvene.
See you at the reception.
And I'm really looking forward to seeing you all in the community more and definitely at the reception and at future city commission meetings. Want to thank staff again. You guys have been great to work with, and Daily, thank you so much for your hard work in this process and getting us to this point. And I'm sure we'll be seeing you again.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure.
I know.
Thank you, Kelly.
And I.
Oh, and we are adjourned.
Oh, we're adjourned. Okay, I was gonna say, after this
Thank
process is
you all.
over, I think we should all have dinner.